All right, Alexander, we have some news coming out of the UK, and it's the Russia Report. It's come out. Now, even though it's called the Russia Report, this is really all about Brexit, isn't it? It's not really about Russia. But once again, let's just say it, Russia did it. You're going to tell us about the report, but I want all our viewers to know Russia did it. Go ahead, Alexander.
That's exactly right. Now, I think to explain what this is all about, we need to go back last year. If you remember last year, people who were watching the Durand last year will remember that at this time last year, Theresa May was still our prime minister. We were bogged down in all sorts of enormously intricate procedural and parliamentary battles as the Remainer majority in the House of Commons was doing everything possible to stop Brexit happening. And the person who was at the center of all of this, one of the great parliamentary manipulators, along with our out of control speaker, but this was a other person, was Dominic Geeve, former Attorney General, Conservative MP, arch Remainer and arch plotter. Now, at the same time, he was the chair of the House of Commons Intelligence Committee, which is the committee that is supposed to regulate the intelligence services. And of course, he came up with this great idea that he was going to, together with the members of his committee, produce a report after getting expert advice from known experts on Russia, like Christopher Steele, who was his star witness, that the reason that the Brexit referendum was won by Leave was because of the Russians. I mean, in other words, Russiagate 2, only this time in Britain over Brexit. So Boris Johnson wouldn't publish the report in the run-up to the election. There were lots and lots of rumors in the Remainer media, particularly the Guardian and the Financial Times, but especially the Guardian, that when the report was eventually published, there'd be all sorts of revelations about how the Russians, orchestrated the Brexit referendum and were responsible for the result. And now we've got the report, and astonishingly, the admission. In fact, there is no evidence that the Russians did anything that led to Leave winning the Brexit referendum. The only thing we can say is that it's very, very sad and unfortunate that the intelligence agencies, the British intelligence agencies, didn't find any evidence that the Russians, fixed the referendum. And we would like them to go on looking and to look harder and to do an intelligence assessment to establish whether or not this thing, of which there is no evidence at all, might conceivably or possibly have happened. So the dampest of damp squibs, a complete non-report. Even some of the things that were being suggested, that it was going to come up with evidence about how the Conservative Party was being funded by Russian money and all that, and how Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's chief of staff, was a Russian agent or something like that. None of that, nothing of that nature at all. Nothing. It's just one of the most bizarre non-documents I have ever read in my life. So another Remainer plot which failed, and failed dismally, and even, dare I say it, comically. Two little things which for myself were quite interesting. An admission. There is an admission in this report that British intelligence, and I suspect not just British intelligence, but all the intelligence agencies of the various Five Eyes alliance, have no real internal evidence, intelligence evidence about Russia. They can't crack the Kremlin at all. There was one interesting admission, which I thought was, flagged up by this, that they don't really know what the Russian decision-making process is like, and they can't figure that out in any way. And the second was that certain countries, France, Italy, and Israel are named, just don't take the anti-Russian campaign at all seriously. But that wasn't really what the report was about. The report was really all about Brexit, exactly as you said, not about Russia. And of course, on Brexit, it came up with nothing.
Yeah, they don't need any information as to how to crack the Kremlin. They've got Christopher Steele. He's already cracked it.
Exactly.
But I think it's safe to say that the UK at least did did the whole Russia did it hoax on the cheap. I mean, they didn't have to go through 3 years of an impeachment process, investigations, Mueller report, 30 million, Andrew Weissman, and all that stuff. I mean, they did it on a pretty economic way, didn't they? I mean,
well, that's one way of putting it, I suppose. I mean, we had, as I say, it's been hilarious to see actually this sort of huge build up to this thing, and the sense of complete letdown when the actual document itself appeared. I mean, if you go to the Guardian today, they're trying to sort of frantically find things in this report that they can work with in order to justify all the sort of hype they gave it before it was published. But you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, if this was Russiagate 2, it was done so much on the cheap that it's just ultimately what you get is invisible. It's just comic, actually.
Yeah, no Vindman, no Fiona Hill, no Mueller, no
none of that. I mean,
what a poor sequel.
What a poor sequel. I mean, absolutely, quite.
At least they had Steele.
Well, see, at least they had Steele. As I said, the one thing I suppose we're not as rich a country as the United States is, and perhaps we have a rather more skeptical perspective on life than than our American cousins do. But anyway, there we are.
I wish they would just stop. Just stop. Please stop with this.
I know. I completely agree.
Please stop and focus on
Russia. I mean, this. I mean, as I said, Russia on the brain all the time. Russians are responsible for everything. And that's the other thing. I mean, there's long pieces about what a bad place Russia is and what a bad person Mr. Putin is and all that sort of stuff. But you can get that in any newspaper now, in both America or Britain. Of actual fact, there isn't any.
Yeah, just have bigger problems and bigger adversaries.
Bigger
problems and bigger, more serious adversaries.
Absolutely, far bigger problems and far more serious adversaries. No question. Absolutely.